G'day everyone. In today's video we're going to look at how to add a button to the ribbon. Alright, let's get started. Let's just call it, actually put this into folder on desktop. And call it crisp.revit.ribbon button. Okay. Alright, so what do we need when we're creating a ribbon button? We need we add the ribbon button in application in the onStartup method, but we need to have a command to it that is associated with the button. So we'll just have an empty command that just shows the message. Task dialog. Right. So that means in the add-on manifest, we don't need to actually load the command in because our application will do that. So let's get rid of that part, and we just load the application in. Okay. Now, we need a couple of extra references when we're dealing with the ribbon. We need to have a reference to presentation core, which is right here. And we also need system drawing. Yeah, and we need Windows base. That's all. Okay, so steps are, we get the panel, get or create the panel, add the button to, we get, what do we do next? We get the image for the button, we create the button data, and we add the button to the ribbon. There's a couple of things that we're going to need to work out here. So when we're getting or creating the panel, by default you can grab a panel on the add-ins tab. You don't have to do anything extra, or you can also create your own ribbon tab and put a panel onto that. So I'll show you both ways. But first we'll add a couple of constants for our ribbon tab and our ribbon panel. So let's do one for the ribbon tab. We'll call that crisp tools, and the ribbon panel, we'll call that ribbon button sample. Alright, so let's put an extra step in here, say get the tab, ribbon tab. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. There's a built-in command for that. But what we'll do, to create the ribbon tab, you don't really get it per se, so you're just going to reference it. So, but you want to make sure that it's there in the first place. So to do that, you try and create it with just you get the A from the. Actually, that might be too small. Let's make it bigger. So you get the UI controlled application, which is referenced to A, and you say A, create ribbon tab, and you give it the name. So we're going to call it ribbon tab, which is up here, crisp tools. But this can throw an exception, and it throws an exception if this tab already exists. So if you have two tools in separate applications and you load both of them and they both try and create this ribbon tab, then it's going to throw an error. So what we can do then is surround this with try catch, and then we don't actually have to do anything if there's an exception. That just means that it already exists, so we don't need to do anything. So let's just wrap this up, don't need to throw an error. Oops. But we'll just put a comment here. Tab already exists. Cool. And now we can create or get the panel. So to get the panel, we can just loop through the panels that are on our selected tab and try and find one with the name we want. So let's do that. We'll set up an empty variable. And we'll grab the list of ribbon panels. Which we can again get from the UI controlled application. And we're going to put in our ribbon tab name there again. So this is the part where we have to make sure that the ribbon tab exists. Now, if you just wanted to add your panel to the add-ins tab, you just leave that blank. And you don't have to worry about this step here. So you can leave that out, just put that in, and it goes straight onto the add-ins tab. But we're going to create our own tab for this sample. And then once you've got them all, we'll just go through a for each. Ribbon panel, panel in panels. And then we say if the panel name from the list is equal to our panel, which is this one, then that's the panel we want. We'll set our variable above to this panel, and then we break out of the loop. We can stop looping. Now, if we get all the way to the end of all those panels, and there isn't, and this variable is still null, then the panel didn't exist, so we have to create it. So we're going to say here, couldn't find the panel, create it. And so we go, if that panel is still equal to null, let's create it. And once again, it's the UI controlled application. We're going to create the ribbon panel. We're going to create it on the tab, ribbon tab. And we're going to give it the name, ribbon panel. Once again, these are the constants that we set up at the top here. And once again, if you're creating your panel on the add-ins tab, you can leave that argument out and just have ribbon panel like that. Cool. That's the first step done. This second one can be a bit trickier because generally you can just grab an image. So we'll add, actually, what we'll do is we'll just add the image here. We'll put in our resources. Image, existing file, I've got one here, just a little Lego brick. Save that. Now we can load this image. Oops. Just import that from drawing. So you can get an image, but the ribbon panel requires an image source. So we need to convert our image into an image source. There's several ways to do that. The way I like to do it is to embed this image into the DLL, change it into an embedded resource, and then we get a reference to that resource, and then we convert that into an image source. So I'm going to do that with a separate function. And it's going to be a private bitmap source. It's going to return bitmap source, and it's going to take an image as the argument. Bitmap image to import system Windows Media Imaging for that type. Bitmap image. Can use a memory stream, which we also have to import system.io. New memory stream. Start off with the original image, and we say we're going to save this to memory stream with an image format. Import it as well, which is what is it? System drawing imaging PNG. Good. And we're going to set the memory stream position back to 0. Now we're going to go bitmap begin init, and we're going to make sure we end that at the end. End init. In between, we'll set the cache option. To onload the source to null. But the stream source is what we're using. It's the memory stream from above. That's it. And then we're just going to return the bitmap. We're done on here. Oh, got to give my function a name. That would help. There we go, that's better. Right, so now get back to our ribbon panel. So the image is coming from our resources, which is in properties, resources, and there it is there. And we're going to convert that into an image source. What do we have to Windows Media? Lots of imports. And let's just call this image source. And going to use our function that we just created, get image source, and pass in the image. Easy, easy, right? Alright, so let's create the button data. So push button data. Oops, data. So this type is the information behind each data. So it's going to have stuff like the image, the command that gets fired when you press the button, the name, the tooltip, the description, all that kind of stuff. So let's create it. All right, so I think this might go off the edge, so we'll put this on a new line. We have to give it a name first. Let's call it something creative, like my button. And we need the text that gets shown up, so let's call it my ribbon button. The assembly name. So this is interesting. Our command is actually part of this assembly, so we just need to give it back the name of the currently executing assembly. If you had your command in a different assembly, in different DLL, then you'd have to put the path here. And it's a bit tricky. You can't put in relative paths. So if you want to sort of keep all your stuff together, you'd get the executing assembly location and then sort of just change the end so it's the assembly where the command is. but since ours is just in the in the same assembly, we can just get the currently executing assembly. So that we do that with reflection. We have to load that one as well. System reflection. Get executing assembly and the location. And the final thing is class name, which is the full namespace plus the command name. So our command is just this one. So we need this full namespace plus the command. So let's grab that. Yeah, where were we? Okay, so that's going to be this plus and name of the class is command. That's the basic push button data. We can also add the extra things, tooltip and the description and the images. So let's put them in here. Tooltip, this is obviously the short description. So it is shown when you hover over button. The description, long description, is the longer description, funnily enough, which is shown when you hover over the button for a few seconds. The image is the image, but in the image source that we just created. And you can also have a large image. So the reason there's these two is because you can have, if you stack the buttons, you can have a smaller version of the button, or the large image is the typical big button that you see on the ribbon. So we'll have a look at that when we launch Revit. So that's all the data we need. So we need the name, the text that appears on the button, the DLL that holds the command, and the command class name. And optionally, we can add these extra things. Well, you have to have the image, but you can optionally add the tooltip and the description, and you supply the image source for those two images. Once you've got all that, you add your button to the ribbon. So we use the variable from above where we grab the panel. We're going to add the item, which is our button data. And let's cast it to a push button. And that's basically it. There are some options you can do with the button. So you can now change some of the text that you added here. You can also enable or disable. So if there's some true or false, if there's some condition in the Revit project that would stop your button from being active or not, that's where you can set it there. And that's basically it. And then at the end, we just tell Revit that we were successful, and the button should be created. Let's have a look. There's a warning about the command we just created. So yes, we would like to load it. And we can see our new tab that we created, Crisp Tools, and our new panel, ribbon button sample, and our new tool, ribbon button. When we hover over it, we get the tooltip, and if we hover over it for a few seconds, the long description gets shown. And then we call the button, pops up our command, which is just a simple hello Revit. And there you go. Yeah, so as I said, we don't have any add-ins, but if we had not specified the ribbon tab, this exact same thing would have come in the add-ins panel, tab. All right, hopefully that's good enough for you guys, and thanks for watching.